Hello, my name is Brian Wolf. I am a meteorologist that is about to finish my master's degree through Mississippi State University and then eventually pursue my PhD. To those of you that don't know me, I will post an introduction video, coming up at some point in the next couple of days. Those of you that know me, obviously we've been through this drill before. My YouTube channel is actually going to contain lots of videos. We're going to forecast for other countries. We're going to forecast for the entire U.S. We're going to forecast for the Ohio Valley, which is where I specialize due to, that's my residence. So I've kind of been hit up, so I'm kind of going to speed through this today due to what's really a rare situation for the Ohio Valley and southern Indiana, which is a potential snowstorm. And I want to caution you all, though, a couple things. First of all, we are officially, 5 days out. So you want to be very cautious with forecasting anything 5 days out. Really, you want to wait until the system gets on the west coast of the United States and the weather models can start to kind of pick up the system more, and that's when they'll start to zero in. So in the next probably 36, 48 hours, you're going to start to see where the weather models will make likely a little bit of a jump as they start to coalesce around each other. However, for right now, I just want you to know that on this channel, I tell you the honest truth. We forecast. I don't hype. Obviously, I'm not a weather enthusiast. That's how my career started. So we're going to kind of give you a peek behind the screen as to what goes on with the weather forecast. So for right now, I'm just going to really kind of focus on the Ohio Valley for this storm. But you'll notice that daily will roll out where there'll be daily videos for the United States, different regions for the U.S., and so on. So to get started, we're just going to go ahead and kind of skip what's going on right now. We know that there is a big system coming in through the Ohio Valley that's forecasted for this Sunday and Sunday night. So for a snowstorm, you need a couple of things, right? You need enough cold air in place, and you need something that causes precipitation. So you got to have moisture, cold air, and you got to have some sort of a lifting mechanism, i.e. a front, low pressure system, dry line, something of that sort that you need that's going to really kind of lift the air at the surface up, cause clouds to form, and thus cause precipitation. So box number one, let's check and see how much precip do we actually, or not precip, sorry, how much cold air do we have coming in? So if we're going to look at a few different models, the ECMWF is the Euro model. This is for what we're forecasting today, typically a little bit more accurate. We'll look at the NAM, the North American model. It tends to sometimes be a little conservative. You gotta, you liken this to going to school. Different teachers are different experts in different subjects. You're going to have pros and cons to different weather models depending on the situation. I wouldn't trust the Euro weather model for forecasting tropical based activity, just like I wouldn't forecast snowstorms with, another model that maybe is not geared towards that. So we're going to start off with the Euro, typically more accurate. If we go ahead and we go through, and you can see here where it's saying next to valid, this is where we're going to see when the forecast is valid for. But as we get to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you're going to see these blues and purples are showing a lot of cold air in place. And we'll touch base on this on a forecast in the future, but we are getting into a period where we're going to see the polar jet kind of send down shots of really cold air throughout the month of January. But as we get into Sunday, as we get into Monday, you can see that southern Indiana, for the purposes of this video, actually has plenty of cold air in place. And actually, it starts to get really, really, really cold when we get into mid next week. Why is this interesting? Well, number one, you have to have cold air for a snowstorm. Number two, whatever areas do see snow, if that ends up panning out, you're not going to be able to recover as fast, right? If the temperatures aren't getting above freezing during the day, a lot of rural country areas are going to struggle to get their roads clear, or there's going to be delays in that process. So step one, we have plenty of moisture in place. If we switch over and look at the GFS model, by the way, goes out further into the future. But it gets a little excitable sometimes, although it did a really good job during the tropical season with some of our hurricanes that hit the United States. If we look at the GFS here and we kind of scroll down a little bit, as we get into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, again, you can see these shots of cold air coming down in place. So cold air, not going to be a problem for Sunday's system. Now, let's see if we have moisture. And this is looking at the upper atmosphere, which I'll talk about in just a second. So if we go and we actually go back out and go to just composite reflectivity, this would be like a future radar type of forecast. Let's go back. Actually, let's stay here on the GFS. If we do the GFS here, we get into Friday, Saturday. I want you to watch over the plains where a low pressure system is expected to form. And again, with a low pressure system, that's what you're looking for. As a low pressure is going to move off into the east, and for southern Indiana specifically, you want to see a low pressure for a snowstorm kind of go along southern Kentucky, the Tennessee-Kentucky border, as it progresses off to the northeast. A few things. With the rotation around a low pressure, you're going to pull up moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. So there's your moisture if you have a low pressure in place. We've already checked off that we have proper cold air in place, and that low pressure is going to be a lifting mechanism to get the ground air up and get it to cool and condense into hopefully a lot of snow. So if we look at the GFS here, you can see this system start to form. One thing I've noticed, and one thing on these models, and we'll do breakdown videos on the different pros and cons of the models and all their intricacies, but the GFS here this afternoon, and this is posted on the 31st of December around 3:30 Eastern time, is this actually kind of has this has kind of weakened the system just a little bit. You still see, snow chances across southern Indiana, but one thing you got to worry about with the polar jet and cold air is if this cold air moves too far to the south, at least for southern Indiana, you'll start to see those storm tracks go more to the south than you will across southern Indiana. So the GFS doesn't actually look as promising for this right now. However, I want to draw your attention over to the Euro. Again, model I would put a little bit more stock into, so to speak. But if we're going to look at the actual Euro, well, those are totals with, let's see, if we come down here and go to precip and go to rate here, and we're going to see low pressure. So again, look over the plains. You're going to see this low pressure develop. And I want you to I'm going to put this into motion, and I want you to watch where this low goes. Again, if you want snow in southern Indiana, you want to see this low pressure go the Kentucky-Tennessee border. So as we kind of go through time, well, voila, right? That low pressure went Kentucky-Tennessee. Now, I want to point out another thing here. The Euro model is showing a very robust, very vigorous storm through here on Sunday and into the overnight into Sunday and Monday. So if you're a snow lover, the Euro is looking good. And again, that's one I would trust the most. I want to draw your attention, though, to something else. The blues on this map, snow. The pinks on this map could be sleet, freezing rain, grapple, snow rain mix, and then obviously the greens, yellows, and oranges are rain and convective precipitation, i.e. thunderstorms, etc. So that rain snow line there is very close across southern Indiana, and a lot of people that are initially going to be watching these videos are going to be living in this area. So I'm going to go out and show you, this is the Louisville National Weather Service. They do a fantastic job, great work down there. The Weather Service tends to be a little bit more conservative in terms of snow total forecast this far in advance. Okay, they do a wonderful job, but I want to just show you. I mean, right now for my location in southern Indiana, they've got 9.3 inches of snow. It's Tuesday. This is for Sunday. For the National Weather Service to be forecasting this, you know that there is a potential monster snowstorm, and we've just seen it in some of the computer models. One of the things of interest, though, is what's that high temperature going to be on Sunday afternoon? Okay, so you can see they're forecasting their hourly temperatures. Sunday afternoon, they've got it getting to around 32. And again, this far out, you're not going to get me to issue a forecast total amount of snow. You're not going to give me to forecast, 5 days out, is it going to be 33? Is it going to be 30? here's the deal. We know that the temperatures are going to be iffy on Sunday afternoon. What you're not going to hear a lot of these weather enthusiasts that are hype people talk about is kind of the sheer mechanics, the behind the scenes of what's going on up in the sky and in the atmosphere, especially whenever you get this temperature right around freezing, right? So is what we're going to do is by seeing this, we immediately need to understand one thing right now. Again, we got to wait until probably Thursday afternoon, Friday's model runs before we start to get a good handle on this happening. So if you're a snow lover, keep your hopes up, but also be realistic in that things can change. Things will change. Computer models are just simulations with weather data brought in, okay? We have a chance. That's what's great. But if we, for some reason, Sunday afternoon start, and right now the timing for the heaviest snow appears to be late Sunday night into early Monday morning. But if we start to mix in any sort of rain, sleet, freezing rain, whenever you do that into a snowstorm, it will destroy and severely lower the total accumulation forecast. So, on a system like this, from what we see so far, I'm going to caution you that you need to be very aware of it's all going to depend on that Sunday afternoon temperature. So let's get into more of that. And again, I'm kind of rushing this just because this has kind of come out of nowhere here with the computer models. But this is something called BuffKit. It's a program that actually analyzes the upper air atmosphere. Those that have followed me up until this point will know that I've kind of talked about SKUTs and kind of the atmospheric profile. I'm a big believer in that when it comes to snow forecasting. Now, I've brought in the GFS model, and actually I've done that for, you can get this through Penn State, and then BuffKit's another program that you can purchase, but I got one down around Jasper as the site, and it's using the GFS model, which again, remember the GFS is if you're a snow lover, the GFS is not what you kind of want to see right now, as it's kind of borderlining on, not having that low as organized and as strong as the Euro model. So this is the GFS showing the upper atmosphere profile across southern Indiana. If I go out forward in time, right, and in the bottom right part of my screen, you can see where it's forecasting for. This is, 4 p.m. on Thursday. If you actually go ahead and go forward, and I'm actually going to move myself up out of the way, it'll let us go all the way out to Sunday at 6 a.m. So one thing I want to point out is the red line is the temperature profile as you start at the ground and work vertically in the atmosphere. And then the green is going to be the dew point. So the closer you have these two lines, the more saturated the atmosphere is, which is obviously what you want if you want to have any sort of precip. And then the further apart they are, the drier it is. Another thing you got to watch out with winter storm systems is the potential for the snow to be falling, right? But if you've got a layer of dry air between where the snow is falling and where the ground is, it's going to evaporate and it's never going to hit the ground. And that's why a lot of times you see meteorologists that have missed these snow total forecasts. It's because they are not accounting for how the atmosphere is going to be set up vertically, temperature-wise. So if we look, actually, when we're dealing with Saturday afternoon across southern Indiana, it's forecasted that we're going to have a lot of dry air in place. So if I'm going to throw out some red flags for this system, I'm going to throw this out immediately. This is a red flag. We've got to make sure, again, Sunday afternoon temperatures we got to watch, and we have to watch the dry air. Are we going to be able to get enough moisture in fast enough to saturate the atmosphere so that all the snow that actually moves across the area will reach the surface of the earth? As you can see, some good signs here as we move further into time and we're getting late into Saturday afternoon and evening. I want you to notice that you're starting to see, and I'm back in my own way again, you're starting to see up here, and again, this is, pretty far up in the atmosphere, but you're starting to notice, and that's called a dew point depression, the difference between the dew point and the temperature. You're starting to notice that really dry here, and this is Saturday at 7 p.m. But as you move forward into time, you're starting to notice the chances of precip, which is what these green boxes are over on the left, is making the atmosphere more moist at the upper levels, which is what you want. Okay, so I expect that this will continue to saturate up the atmosphere. And right now, and again, this is the GFS, which was not one of the more promising snow models, but something to keep in mind. We will get into this if the Sunday afternoon temperature remains something that we need to watch. We will talk more and more and more daily about this SKUT and the upper air forecast. Right now, I'm going to tell you right now that the chances are good that somebody around here is going to be getting a snowstorm, a potential snowstorm. You can get excited, but I wouldn't necessarily um, you need to be cautious, right? Cautious optimism. And then, so we're watching the Sunday afternoon temperature. We're watching to make sure that this low pressure actually does form across the Great Plains, which I have a good amount of confidence that it will. But where is it going to track? How fast and how far south is that cold air going to get? Because if it gets too far to our south, we will miss out on the heaviest part of the snow. We'll keep you updated. Stay tuned here on Big Bad Wolfcast.